welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since the last video. This time I've had the opportunity to take an in-depth look at the new Novritsch SSG-11 bolt action rifle. It's a completely upgraded VSR that can shoot up to 6.5 Joule, has a built-in TDC system, and a quick removal cylinder and way more tricks up its sleeve. Now, a quick note before kicking off this video, I actually worked at Novritsch some years back. Mostly, I did the AEGs, but I also helped a little on the original SSG-10 and the SSG-96. I even had my own one-piece custom VSR brought in for videos back then, way before the SSG-11 was made. Also, this is not a sponsored video. I get no payment, no equipment, and no affiliation links. But I did get early access to a sample so I could help you guys make better purchase decisions. This is also more of a technical look than a review. I like how the rifle is designed and how it functions, but that doesn't guarantee that you get exactly the same rifle when you buy it. There can be design changes or QC issues from batch to batch at the factory, or there could be issues that you would need to test 30 rifles to find, and I only tested this one sample. With that said, let's dive into it. The first impression when holding it is that this is a toy. The body is light. I'm guessing the stock is a nylon fiber plastic stock and it is very solid. Now, with a different stock, especially with more weight in that stock, this will feel better. It is just a feeling. I guarantee you that the quality is really high. The upper receiver and outer barrel is made from a single tube of aluminium and omits the usual split design of VSR between the receiver and the outer barrel. This is amazing for long-term outer barrel stability and simplicity of engineering, and it's a huge improvement over normal VSRs. The only other way to have this was something like a Relic VSR upper receiver, and he doesn't make those anymore. Now you can get something like this at a nice mass-manufactured price instead. The stock is a normal M4 stock tube design, so you can put whatever M4 stock you want on it. The included stock works fine, but it is loose and it contributes to that toy feeling I mentioned earlier. The grip, I think, is a GBB M4 style grip, so maybe that can be replaced. There's 2 threads in the bottom of it, and I think Novritsch is releasing accessories for this grip as well, both something to put on the end and maybe change the side plates as well. The charging handle is a raised 90-degree charging handle. This means that it sits higher than normal and will potentially be blocked by the scope or scratch the underside of it. A proper grip during loading is also difficult as the scope is now in the way when the charging handle sits so high. The charging handle itself is rather short, and with its round form, it's more difficult to grip than a normal VSR handle. Also, the grip works. It's a very suboptimal design and needs immediate replacement with something better. At least the design allows swapping it easily from right to left. You just disassemble the cylinder, swap it over, swap the QD point back over to the other side, and you're done. So that's pretty easy. I also experienced that the charging handle is difficult to push down after loading, but this may get better over time. This is because the rifle uses the charging handle itself as a tolerance point to hold the cylinder against the receiver right here and compress it against the Hopup chamber. Technically, that's good, but it's quite annoying. Moving to the cylinder area, there's a new take on VSR receivers. The cylinder itself can be pulled out with minimal effort. Simply push down on this lever inside here, and you can pull the cylinder out. Super easy. That's a good design and a great upgrade over any other VSR rifle at the moment. And this is useful for anyone as it's common to fine-tune the power for individual field limits. The dummy mag inside the receiver also has 2 pins, which conveniently function as a cylinder head tool. It works, but it would have been better if the pins were in the middle of the dummy mag instead, and I still recommend something like the Triggerset VSR tool, which I use and sell myself as well. Inside the receiver we can see that there are no guide rings. Normally on VSR you have a guide ring here at the start and here at the end to guide the cylinder. Now, either due to manufacturing costs or to maximize the cylinder volume itself by making it wider, the usual VSR guide rings have been omitted in this design. I'm not terribly happy about this, as it can cause issues with dirt and lubrication. A normal VSR guides the metal cylinder via low friction plastic rings, which also allows dirt and hard particles to gather on the side of the rings instead of on the surface that touches the metal cylinder. With the SSG-11 design being a metal tube in a metal tube with two big flat surfaces running on each other, any hard particles or debris that gets in here will cause scratches and resistance during loading. But at least it's quick to remove and clean the cylinder. The bipod mount sits misaligned on the sample that I had, just ever so slightly. It still works, and they'll probably fix that in the future batches. The threads and screws in the receiver are worth taking note of as well. They're very strong and won't wear out over time like on normal VSRs. A bit more dry information. The outer barrel and receiver has a 27.2mm inside diameter. It takes the normal SSG-10 14mm thread adapters, but does not come with one. From Hopup to muzzle, this rifle is about 319mm long, which brings it in a tad bit under the normal SSG-10, though more than a G-Spec VSR. That's probably the right choice, as with a suppressor installed, the SSG-11 is still quite long. I personally prefer longer bolt actions, and the previous reticle-based VSR build was something crazy like 715mm long with internal suppressor. I would like to see something similar for the SSG-11. Perhaps someone can make a barrel extension kit for it. Especially with the larger cylinder volume, it could also use a longer barrel as well. I tested with TM VSR mags, and they do not stay locked in my SSG-11, but the included mags are probably better anyway. They contain 58 rounds and are see-through, so you can see how many BBs are left very easily, both significant improvements. I mean, the original VSR mag has 24 rounds in it, so that's over double. Also, I found that quite often, and especially during stressed gameplay, I would accidentally push the safety on from safe to fire during loading. This is not entirely a new problem for VSR, but I think the charging handle design is also part of this issue. On my own VSRs, I usually remove the safety and instead keep the rifle uncocked until needed, but that is not for everyone. And finally, they've added a cocked rifle indicator at the rear of the bolt, just like on L96 rifles. It's a nice idea and a new feature for VSR, but the thickness and protrusion height of the indicator makes it difficult to see the difference during gameplay anyway. The Hopup system of the SSG-11 is just super nice. All machined aluminum and anodized red, it's similar to the CTM chamber and it features a simple yet effective TDC Hopup system. The Hopup is held in place by the two TDC arm screws on the top and the usual screws under the H-block inside the receiver itself. You loosen these parts and you can slide the Hopup unit straight out of the receiver. Looking at the Hopup unit itself, we can see that it is an edgy style bull barrel. It's a thicker and heavier steel barrel than normal VSR barrels, and it has an inner diameter of 601. I haven't tested the inner barrel with a bore scope, but by looking at the start of the barrel ends, it's clear that the barrel seems very rough. Also, the SSG-11 shot okay during my testing. I don't think this is an optimal quality inner barrel. For an ultimate VSR, this barrel should have had better surface quality. But getting an upgraded barrel custom made, or the stock one polished better, should not be too difficult to achieve. The barrel is locked in place via the screw-on collar at the end. The first time you take this off, it's really tight and you might need a tool to grip it. When this collar is tightened, it squeezes on these arms, which then grips the inner barrel and holds it in place. There's no mechanical alignment or depth setting, so it's up to the end user to reassemble it consistently if needed. This does work fine, but I'm not a fan of a system that can be assembled wrong compared to an AG or normal VSR chamber, which forces the barrel to sit in a specific rotation or depth. The barrel has a hopper window that is very long, and the bucking is a simple flat hop design. It's slightly transparent and is, according to Novritsch team, a silicone bucking with 70-degree hardness. I think that's a fine choice for an all-round sniper bucking, and it certainly works, but it does mean that you can't use any silicone-based oil or grease when you want to put it back into the chamber again. This is because silicone oil on silicone buckings can cause the silicone bucking to swell and become defective. So if you want to grease the outside of the bucking to make insertion easier, I recommend the silicone-free grease that I released recently. This grease is specially designed for silicone buckings and works great for cases just like this. You can see the full range of my airsoft lubrication products right now on my webshop at perfectairsoft.com, or check the link in the description. Also, hit the subscribe button as well to see more reviews like this. It really helps a one-man company like me to put out some cool new products in the future. Going back to the TDC adjustment, it has a nice click feeling and a huge adjustment range when you move it. Each step moves the Hopup setting only very slightly, so it's possible to set the backspin amount in very fine steps. This wheel is directly connected to a 2-stage aluminum block which pushes down on the flat hop bucking. Simple and reliable. It lifts a 0.46 fine at 2 to 3 Joule, so I think that's appropriate. I did think of making something more efficient to replace it, maybe a concave knob design. Let me know in the comments what you think would work better, and I'll see what I can make. Or feel free to pop by my Discord by clicking also the link in the description. Let me know what we can figure out. But for sure, a TDC system like this is miles better and easier to adjust than the original SSG-10 or VSR side-by systems where you move a lever. Now, one of the issues that I found, and which has also been recognized in other TDC systems, is that the wheel itself is rather exposed. It sits at the front and top of the SSG-11, meaning it can easily get bumped or turned by external subjects. It could be when you are crawling through dense vegetation or resting the rifle against a structure. It can also happen if the SSG-11 is hanging against your body and catches a piece of equipment or the edge of a pocket. I would say that this TDC design is accurate in adjustment, but actually lacking in design for combat use. Because a sniper rifle must be reliable. It would be awful if it was suddenly over or under hopping. Imagine you go to a mil sim, and in the evening you unknowingly bump the rifle and change the hop-up setting. Your rifle will be useless until the next day when you could actually dial it in again. So I made a solution for that. I designed a protective cover that I call the TDC Shield. It's made of hard plastic and it sits over the original TDC system. The TDC Shield sits on the rifle and absorbs any impact while allowing adjustment through an opening in the back. It also has indicators so you know what direction to adjust. To install it, take out one screw, pop the cover on, and put the included screw back in. Voila, very easy. It's already available right now in my web shop, so if you're a person who is getting this amazing SSG-11 rifle, you should definitely check out that upgrade as well, as you should never go into danger without proper protection. The cylinder is a full steel cylinder with a pinned charging handle section. It's simple and fine. I would not feel any need to upgrade this cylinder, nor would I be able to, as it's a proprietary system. Simply put, this is what you get. And what you get is great. The cylinder is wider, resulting in a wider piston head and a bigger total volume. Looking at the piston, we can see a nice new cup head design and weight adjustments rings. The cup head is a good design. It fits well to the cylinder and gives a good and immediate seal. In the center of the piston head is a bump with a hollow core, which also acts as a shock absorption when impacting the bare cylinder head. It's a simple and effective design. The piston itself is aluminium, but there is no steel disc inside it to protect the surface at the bottom. This means that over time, and especially when using cut springs, this could cause scratches and loose aluminium particles from this inside area. The piston itself is easily disassembled by unscrewing this cap here. You can then add or remove weight spacers as you want. The base piston weighs 65 grams, and this is actually really heavy for a stock VSR piston, but maybe with the wider cylinder, this could work out fine. Novritsch also offers a weight adjustment kit for the piston. With this kit, you get 4 rings of 5 grams each and 4 rings of 15 grams each. That's enough for a weight increase of 125 grams, but I don't recommend going all out. Piston weight tuning is a deeper subject for another video, and I'm not sure if I'll make more videos about VSR for now. So let me know in the comments if this is something you want to see more in-depth discussion about. In short, a heavier piston reduces sound and potentially gives a little energy increase, but comes with decreased hop-up stability and more kick during the firing cycle. The optimal piston weight then depends on BB weight, barrel length, and spring design inside the rifle itself. Moving on to the spring guide. This is a simple machine steel spring guide. There's no bearing or fancy things, but it does have a nice conical end, and I can confirm that it works well with a variety of 9mm springs. Inside the spring guide sits a moving rod, which is actually the cock rifle indicator. When the piston is resting on the Triggerset, it pushes this rod back out of the cylinder, causing the end to protrude and show the cocked rifle indication. Going back to the cylinder, I'll wrap up with some dry specs. The cylinder OD is 26.70mm and the ID is 24.70mm. The piston is 109mm long from front to the Triggerset edge. The inside depth is 88mm and the ID is 13.70mm. With the spring guide, the compressed length of the spring when the rifle is loaded is about 85mm. This means that the spring gets compressed more, and I did experience lock-up with some aftermarket springs, meaning the rifle wouldn't actually pull the piston back far enough to allow it to lock onto the sear itself. And because the parts are proprietary, you cannot switch to a longer or deeper piston or a spring guide with a thinner base to accommodate longer springs. You are stuck with this for now. The Triggerset is the same proven design from the SSG-10. To tell the difference, it comes with a red anodized chassis. The internals are modified to accommodate the cylinder release lever. And this is a smart little detail. When you pull the lever, it also pulls the Triggerset down at the end, which would otherwise block the cylinder from moving out past it. There's no adjustment of the trigger, but the trigger pull is fine anyway, even with the harder springs. Based on what I've been told, there will be various upgrade triggers available, but nothing that would change the experience, just the looks. On the sample I tested, all the Triggerset screws, both the ones on the receiver and also the screws in the chassis that holds it together, were super well thread-locked together. And this is fine because with this QD cylinder design, you pretty much never have to remove the Triggerset from the receiver, so just leave these screws in. Now, if you do take it apart for cleaning and then re-greasing, you can use one of the greases I mentioned earlier. Both of the greases I make, one with silicone and one without silicone, have PTFE particles in them and will work great on the sear contact points of the Triggerset. Now, enough talking about parts. Let's test this thing. If you've seen my previous videos, you know I'm a sucker for data. So I tested the SSG against its little brother, well, older little brother, the SSG-10, to see how it stacks up. My SSG-10 is upgraded with bucking, TDC mod, and some other stuff to make the airseal nice. But for the sake of the comparison, I put in the original SSG-10 cylinder parts. They compressed the spring to 90mm normally, but I added a spacer inside the piston to make the compression 85mm, just like the SSG-11. I tested 4 different springs, first in the SSG-10, and then the same springs in the SSG-11. Looking at the data, it's very interesting that they go toe-to-toe, pretty much within the margin of error, right up until the high-power spring. With this 5.5 Joule spring, the SSG-11 pulls away with a whopping 30% increase over the SSG-10. It also sounded way nicer when firing this spring in the SSG-11 than the SSG-10. I plain up don't know why this is for sure, that there's such a big gap with only this spring in the SSG-11, but I have my theories. The other 2 springs are both long springs in the sense that they have many coils and are quite long, The SSG-11 5.5 Joule spring is quite short in comparison, with almost no pressure when the piston is fully forward, and a very high pressure at the end of the pool when you are loading the rifle. So it could come down to spring design, or it could be that the SSG-11 piston design works better at higher power levels than a normal VSR. Or it could be because the barrel is attached shorter on the SSG-11. So very interesting, and if you have any thoughts on this, let me know in the comments. Overall, the conclusion is that the SSG-11 is a beast for high power setups. Now, in addition to raw data, I also recorded some test firing at various ranges. First at 60 meters, then 90 meters, and finally a whopping 110 meters. Testing first at 60 meters with the 2.6 Joule spring and a light 36 gram BB, we can see that it's possible to hit a body or head most of the time. It's not a particularly interesting result, but the rifle works. Now moving to 90 meters, and with the 3.3 Joule spring and 0.46 BBs from Novritsch, we can see that the rifle shoots further and is reasonably accurate. However, even with meters of holdover, the BBs are falling short. You would probably need 3 to 5 meters of holdover or a couple of meters of overhop to reach this target consistently. With the 3.8 Joule spring and the same 0.46 gram BBs, it's a little easier, but still requires some holdover. Most of the shots are able to hit the man-sized target at 90 meters, which is pretty good. Now shooting with the highest power spring, 5.6 Joule, and BLS 48 gram BBs, it's very easy to hit the target. The accuracy is not much better, if at all, but very little holdover is needed. I'm able to hit the target by aiming straight at it and with about 1 meter of overhop. Next up, moving further back to a whopping 110 meters from the target, it's quite difficult to reach it. With 5.6 Joule and the heaviest BB at 48 gram BB, I have to aim 4 to 5 meters above the target. You can't even see the BB in frame half of the time. And now for the final test. This is the same 110 meters and 5.6 Joule. But I've now adjusted the SSG-11 to have 2 to 3 meters of overhop, and I'm aiming straight at the target instead. Doing this, we can see that the BBs are mostly on target, at least in height. I'm not a fan of overhopping, as it locks you into long-range shots only, but admittedly it does give a better result for long-range shooting than just aiming a bit higher. The conclusion from test firing the SSG-11 is that it's reasonably accurate, and you'll have no problem shooting whatever heavy spring or BB you want. It's accurate enough to be a threat at 110 meters, possibly more, though even in good shooting conditions, you'll miss half the shots at that distance. I think that's a very good level of accuracy for an out-of-the-box, mass-manufactured bolt-action rifle. End of the day, we are just shooting small round plastic balls. Also, all of the 110 meter shots were made from a standing position, not the brightest choice for an accuracy test really. And I'm confident that the accuracy would be better if the test was repeated from a prone shooting position. Well, that's for the future. So, what's the verdict? Well, I think this is a major step forward for the VSR market. You get a bigger cylinder, and just about all parts are upgraded to the end game of a VSR. The one-piece receiver design is a first in a mass-produced VSR rifle to my knowledge. I think it's important to understand that you are getting a wealth of high-end upgrades in a combined package at a great discount compared to building it yourself on a VSR platform. At the time of making this video, I've been informed that the MSRP is €400 here in Europe, including VAT. And I think that's reasonable, but I also think the product could have used a bit more polishing in the development phase, as you are stuck with the flaws for now. The downsides are the charging handle, the lack of TDC protection, lack of guide rings, self-activating safety, the body pistol grip design. In my opinion, I prefer a normal sniper stock, and the low weight. Most of these are solvable, and none of them really prevents the rifle from its main purpose, which is being a sniper rifle that will accurately and efficiently put a heavy BB on a target far away. It does do that. For the issue with the exposed TDC wheel, I made the TDC Shield available, so that's one thing solved. For the body design and charging handle, it's my understanding that Novritsch will make different versions available, but at the time of making this video, I'm unaware of what exactly that is. Complete rifle stocks are not cheap to make, and although it's a VSR rifle, I assume it won't fit normal VSR stocks given the different design of the receiver. So we'll have to wait for Novritsch to release alternative stocks. For the low body weight, which admittedly many people like, and it is comparable to a normal VSR anyway, you can just add material inside the outer barrel or in the stock or in the stock tube, and that'll very easily increase the weight. For the safety self-activation issue, that's actually a common problem with VSRs, and you can just unscrew that part and yeet it if you want, or if you want to play things safe, you can leave it on. That's up to you. About the lack of guide rings, time will tell the scope of that issue. In a sentence, the SSG is better and more promising than the SSG-10, but the SSG-10 is a more mature and usable product if you install a few upgrades in the SSG-10, like a CTM hop-up chamber, bucking, and heavy piston. Where the SSG-11 really shines is at high power levels like 4 Joule or more, but at the 2 to 3 Joule power level, it works just fine as well. So, this is the first time I've done a video on bolt action rifles. I'd love to hear what you think, and if you have any ideas for upgrade parts for this rifle or sniper rifles in general, pop by my Discord and let me know.